Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and I am happy to be back with another Marvel Universe miniature game battle report. Part of the benefit of having a YouTube channel that doesn't make any money is I get to do videos like this about games that nobody cares about, but I love. And I'm really excited about this one. This is a game with the X-Men versus the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. The X-Men was always my favorite comic book. Most of my favorite characters are from those titles. Didn't get into it through the 90s cartoon, which a lot of people my age did. Think that thing was a little bit overrated. Also overrated, the Pride of the X-Men pilot cartoon. My opponent kept quoting it through the whole course of the game. I watched it after the fact, and I don't know, I don't get it. Anyway, after the last game that we played, I asked my opponent what character he would really like to use in one of these games, and he said the Juggernaut. He knew that I had an unpainted Juggernaut sitting at my painting station. Technically, Night Models never released a model or rules for the Juggernaut. There were these leaked rules for a bunch of characters that hit the internet a while after Night Models lost their lease for the Marvel game. Whether you choose to believe they're legitimate or not is up to you. They look like they come from the same kind of design philosophy as the rest of the cards, so I think they're very usable. So whether they're real leaked cards or not, I'm going to use the first one in this game, and that of course is going to be the Juggernaut. Third-party resin print. I chose this model because I liked the pose the best of the ones that they offered. I didn't realize till I was actually painting him that he's got a big X on his helmet, on his forehead. I am unfamiliar with the time where he might have worn that. Even in the times where he was a member of the X-Men, I think he just had his regular dome helmet. Either way, I do like the model. I did have to change a couple of things about it. But he's big and intimidating and kinda dumb looking, everything I love about the Juggernaut. He's got some interesting rules and I'm keen to see how well he does. For the rest of the Evil Mutants team, we have Magneto, Sabretooth, Pyro, Toad, and Emma Frost. So a real mix of power levels. Toad and Pyro are just garbage, Magneto is great. I'm not entirely sure about Sabretooth and the White Queen. Hopefully this game will give me a better understanding of them. Over to my side, and I'm able to take almost a full roster of the X-Men. This is going to be a 50 level game, which is about as high as you go on these games. And so I'm able to take Nightcrawler, Rogue, Cyclops, Colossus, Jean Grey, Deadpool, and Wolverine. I would have been happy to leave Deadpool out of the lineup. I don't consider him a real X-Men team member. I would have liked to have included Gambit, but Gambit is one level more in cost, so I couldn't quite get him in, so Wade Wilson is there subbing. As for the team itself, I'm a little bit more familiar with these guys than the Brotherhood. Cyclops is possibly the best range attacker in the game. Wolverine and Deadpool are both great. Colossus is fantastic. Jean Grey is a weird character, a real mixed bag, a lot like Emma Frost. Rogue, really not that great. She has some problems. And Nightcrawler is probably the most mobile character in the game, but that is all he's going to accomplish. So here's the board with the train all set up and after deployment. My guys are spread along the bottom. His guys are clustered up in the middle at the top. The scenario we're using today is the Relic. So in the very center of the table there are two relic counters. One is a small bag of money that the Brotherhood are trying to grab to fund their illicit activities. And right behind the crate to the right of those central shipping containers is a counter with a small data console. A character in base contact can pick up a relic for 1 power. You get a victory point at the end of every round if you are holding both of the relics. You also get a victory point if you have both relics in your deployment zone at the end of the game. And you get 1 victory point to be the first player in the game to force an enemy to drop a relic. A model will drop a relic if at any time they are KO'd, pushed, knocked down, incapacitated, or thrown. While holding a relic, it goes where you go, except that you can't make more than 1 move action in a round while holding a relic. So agile characters like Wolverine, normally they can make 2 move actions in a round, so he won't be able to do that if he's holding the relic. They also drop the relic if they are displaced. There's a bunch of superpowers that allow a character to be displaced, for example Toad's super jump, or Deadpool's body slide. I think all these rules are there just to make it harder to run away with a relic. They want to keep it in play where the other team can get at them. But those are the relics. Here's another look at the deployment from another view. Here we see the Brotherhood team all clustered up in the center. Magneto is in the middle because he has that leadership skill. Anyone with less power than him within 5 inches is going to get an extra power when they activate. The only character that wouldn't affect is Emma Frost. Here's a look at my deployment. We have Nightcrawler and Colossus next to each other on the far left. Looks like I have something in mind for those guys. Cyclops is nearby, again, ready to do that leadership bubble of his own. Then we have Deadpool and Wolverine, and up on the Quonset hut we have our Flyers, Jean Grey, and Rogue. So it's time for the game to begin, and we set up our counters to be drawn to see who gets the first activation. The Brotherhood is going to get an extra counter in the bag because Emma Frost is a mastermind. Ironically, you know who's not a mastermind in this game? Lady Mastermind. Not that she's in this group, but just thought I'd point it out. Anyway, I draw my counter, which is Lucky. Normally, I would let my opponent go first in the first round of that game. Let them move up a little bit, so hopefully they'll be in range of some of my powers. But in this case, I want to claim the objective closest to my opponent. I don't want to take the risk that Toad is going to get there and then just run off with it. So I am going to activate Nightcrawler. He is within 4 inches of Cyclops, and he has lower power, so he gets an extra power because of Cyclops' leadership ability. And he is going to use his once per game red ability, Teleport Multiple, and he and Colossus are going to go on a little trip to the very center of the board. Nightcrawler is going to land in base contact with the Relic, and he's going to spend 1 power to grab it. Colossus is going to be pushed just a little bit forward, and his job is to keep Nightcrawler safe. Colossus has the bodyguard ability. He can spend 1 power to take any attack directed at Nightcrawler, and it goes back to him. And he has the defenses and health to absorb that kind of thing. So Colossus is going to be Nightcrawler's mutant shield for a little bit. So it's over to my opponent, and he is going to activate Magneto. I think he would have rather activated his other characters first so they can get that leadership. Magneto is going to move up, and so he's going to end up out of range of some of those guys. But Magneto has something in particular that he wants to accomplish, and that is get rid of Colossus and clear the way for the other characters to attack Nightcrawler. He is going to use a blunt instrument on Colossus, which allows him to pick up and throw any character with the metallic skill. Colossus is very, very metallic, but my opponent does need to hit his physical defense in order to do this throw. Colossus has an absolutely tremendous physical defense of 20, and I increase that by spending a power for a defensive adjustment, which will bring it up to 22. Now, this is against the rules. I'm not actually able to do this. Later on in the game, I'm looking over Colossus' stat card, and I'm looking at Solid. What does Solid do? So I look it up, and oh, this character can't actually make defensive improvements, so I'm not actually allowed to up my defense like this. But it doesn't matter anyway, because Magneto overloads the blunt instrument and manages to hit that 22 regardless. Magneto throws with a strength of 4, so he hucks Colossus away 8 inches. Colossus is going to be knocked down, he's going to take 3 points of damage, and more importantly, he will not be able to bodyguard Nightcrawler while he's lying on his back like that. Taking advantage of this, Magneto then uses blunt instrument again to pick up one of those shipping containers in the stack and just drop it on poor Kurt Wagner. Fortunately, Nightcrawler gets an agility test to avoid the damage. And of course, he's a circus acrobat. He has no problem getting out of the way, and so he manages to escape any damage from that. So it's back to my turn, and I decide that Colossus needs to get up and go bodyguard his little buddy again. So that's all I do for this round. Colossus stands up and moves back in range to bodyguard Nightcrawler. So it's back over to the Brotherhood. Sabretooth is next to activate. He moves up and then pounces, getting himself in base contact with Nightcrawler. He then goes and uses claws on Kurt, but Colossus is doing his job. He spends the 1 power to bodyguard it. Sabretooth can't get through that defense of 20 and no damage is caused. Next up for the X-Men, I'm going to activate Deadpool. Deadpool is a weird character. He's got great attributes, terrible defenses, relatively small health bar, and then just some great skills on top of that. He also has a very low power, so he also gets +1 power for being nearby Cyclops. Deadpool is going to move up as far as he can and then shoot twice with Bang Bang at Sabretooth. Sabretooth is in cover, so he gets +1 physical defense. Nonetheless, Deadpool has an attack of 7 and is a master fighter, so I always get to re-roll 1 of the dice on any attack rolls. The first shot I overload and I manage to do 1 point of damage, and the second shot that is not overloaded I manage to crit and do another 2 points of damage, so that's 3 damage to Sabretooth. Toad is next for the Brotherhood. He also has the Agile skill, so he can make 2 move actions in this round, which he does. He moves up twice and then uses Toad's Spit on Nightcrawler. Colossus still has power, so he bodyguards that, and again, Toad cannot get roll high enough to beat Colossus's defense, his energy defense in this case, which is 17. Next up is Cyclops. Cyclops is going to move up behind that pallet of barrels there. I really like that position. That gives him a little cover and just a great field of fire to all those relics that we're going to be fighting over. He's going to fire 2 focused beams at Sabretooth. Focused beam is a great attack, very efficient. 2 power, 2 damage, 16-inch range. I had enough power to overload one of them, and I managed to hit with one and crit for another. That's going to do a total of 5 points of damage, a real effective first turn for Cyclops. Sabretooth is now in the pale, and unless he can regen that kind of thing, he is now -1 power. He loses the +1 speed and +1 attack, and he's going to need to make endurance tests at the end of every round or get knocked out. Emma Frost is next for the Brotherhood. She is going to move up and try a Psybolt on Nightcrawler, which again gets bodyguarded by Colossus. Colossus has a pretty bad mental defense of only 13, but nonetheless, Emma Frost manages to miss, which is a little surprising. Just kind of some bad luck on the Brotherhood's part there. But that does mean that Colossus is now out of power, and so Nightcrawler is undefended. Emma Frost is going to fire another Psybolt now at Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler doesn't have the solid rule, so he can up his mental defense. That puts his at only 16, which isn't great. Still, Emma Frost misses. I think both those attacks were overloaded too. Real bad round for the White Queen. It's my turn again. I'm going to activate Jean Grey. She's going to show Emma Frost how this sort of thing is done. Jean Grey has a ton of power, but just some strange abilities. She's going to fly down from the Quonset hut. So she can fly, but she's actually really slow, so I think that's going to take up 3 of her power right off the bat. She's then going to throw a Psychic Illusions into Sabretooth, and she's going to overload it twice. So she's going to roll 2 extra dice, which she can do because she has the energy skill. She's going to end up hitting with a crit, which is going to mean that Sabretooth is going to take 4 points of damage, +1 damage for the crit, and +1 damage because Jean Grey has the Power Master skill, which gives her +1 damage on the attack that is overloaded. So anyway, Sabretooth now has to make an immediate knockout test. He manages to pass, but he's looking like he's in rough shape. So now it's Juggernaut's turn. Juggernaut is just a bit out of range. He's got +1 speed when he's healthy, and his unstoppable charge attack has a range of 4. Still, he can't quite get to those good guys in the middle of the table. The best he can do is move up to those shipping containers, and with that strength 5 of his, chuck one of them at Nightcrawler and Colossus. Unsurprisingly, Nightcrawler is able to flip out of the way, but a little bit more surprisingly is that Colossus manages to pass his agility test and also takes no damage. Next, we're going to activate Rogue. Rogue is going to fly up and grab that loot counter. This is good news. Now I have both of the relics. I'll be getting a victory point at the end of the round if I can hang on to them. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any targets to attack, but that's okay. Next up for the Brotherhood is Pyro. Pyro is going to move up towards where the big fight is happening and overload a Pyro Blast into Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler still has some leftover power. He can up his energy defense, but he's hit anyway and takes 2 points of damage. For the final activation of the game, we're going to Wolverine. Wolverine has to move up to where the action is as well, so he's going to double move with that agile skill. That still doesn't get him quite far enough to be able to use those claws of his, but it can bring him into contact with that crate in the middle of the table. Wolverine actually has a strength of 3, so he's easily able to throw that crate, which is size 2, and he's going to chuck it at his good friend Sabretooth. Sabretooth manages to fail his dodge and take 2 points of damage to the face. You also get knocked down when you fail a dodge and get hit by an object, so now he's knocked down, super hurt, as we go into round 2. Sabretooth does manage to pass his stamina test to stay conscious again, and he also regenerates 1 point of damage. But I do get a bit lucky and I manage to draw my counter to see who goes first. I've got a lot of things that I want to do this round, but Scott Summers is keeping the team focused on the mission, and we're going to go with Nightcrawler first. Nightcrawler can't bamf with the Relic because the text of bamf says that he gets removed and then placed somewhere else. And if you get removed from the table, then you automatically drop a Relic. So it's got some sort of scrambler or something that interferes with his teleporting ability. So instead, Nightcrawler is just going to start off by throwing a strike into the knockdown Sabretooth, which he manages to miss. That's fine, he only has an attack of 6, and it only does 1 point of damage. And more importantly, what we're going to do is we're just going to run away. That does take me out of the range of Colossus's bodyguard, but I'm going to be far away from a lot of the enemy characters and I'm going to be surrounded by my people, so I think it's the best choice. Next up is the Brotherhood, and he activates Sabretooth because he is probably not long for this world. He is nearby Magneto, so he gets +1 power, which is good because he's looking a little low because he has to spend one of it to hop up. And of course, as you would predict, he moves directly into Wolverine. Colossus isn't going to bodyguard for this. Wolverine can take care of himself. Plus, Wolverine gets a little bit better once he gets damaged. Anyway, Sabretooth overloads his red ability, Devastating Claws, into Logan. Wolverine doesn't bother to defend, because of course he doesn't, and he's going to take 4 points of damage from that and get Distract 2, which reduces his physical defense by 2 for the rest of the round. I'm going to activate Cyclops next. I'd sure hate for Toad to be able to chase down Nightcrawler and make him drop that relic, so I'm going to put 2 focused beams into him, and real consistent, Cyclops manages to hit with both and stick 4 points of damage on Mortimer Townby. Toad does not have a big health bar, and that takes a big chunk out of it. Next up is Magneto, who is furious at seeing these relics disappearing into the X-Men deployment zone, so he is going to take out his frustration on Peter Rasputin. He's going to try and do a couple of blunt instruments on him. I'm not sure how many attempts, but he finally gets one to go through Colossus's physical defense. And so he is going to hurl him right at Juggernaut's feet. So Colossus is going to take 3 points of damage and be knocked down. When you think about throwing in this game, you usually think about throwing them into objects or throwing them away for your guys, but really one of the best things you can do is just throw them straight into a pack of your guys so that they can get beat up later in the round. And that's exactly what Magneto does here. Immediately following that, Magneto is going to use Master Tactician, so he makes a willpower test and gets to activate another one of his characters immediately after he does. And of course, he's going to activate Juggernaut. We don't want to give Colossus a chance to stand up. Colossus is a great target right now because he's -3 defense because he is on the ground. So Juggernaut throws his red ability Wrath of Cyttorak as well as a regular punch. He overloads both, hits with both, and so Colossus takes 6 points of damage and is now in the pale. Anyone else taking this kind of damage would be in serious trouble. Colossus just has a massive health bar though. Still, it's dwindling pretty fast. Still, Mr. Rasputin didn't exactly like that, so he's going to activate next, and he's going to stand up and use his red ability, Titanic Slam. That is a wave attack that affects everyone within 3 inches. So that's going to affect Juggernaut, Magneto, and Pyro. They all get agility tests to see if they can take half damage. Pyro passes his agility and only takes 1 point of damage. Juggernaut also passes, not that he needed to. He has a resistance of 2 physical damage, so it wouldn't have hurt him regardless. Magneto, however, fails and ends up taking 2 points of damage, which I have incorrectly marked here as 3. For the remainder of Colossus' turn, he moves over slightly to Magneto and throws 1 punch at the leader of the Brotherhood. He does miss, though. So now it's back over to the Evil Mutants and Emma Frost again. Emma is going to stay where she is and use Drain Psyche on Colossus, which is going to reduce his already pretty bad mental defense by 1. She's then going to hit him with an overloaded Psybolt, which is going to do 3 points of damage. Emma Frost is also a power damage, so any overloaded attacks do +1 damage. She then uses Astral Bolt on Colossus. Colossus now has to make a willpower test. His willpower is normally 8, but it's down to 7 because of Drained Psyche. He fails and takes another 2 points of damage. Colossus just has 1 health left at this point. Well and truly in the red, he makes a stamina test, which he manages to pass. So he's still on his feet for now, but probably for not much longer. Also in bad shape is Sabretooth. I'm going to activate Wolverine and I'm going to throw a Snicked into him. This time the rivalry ends with a Wolverine win, and Sabretooth takes enough damage to be removed from the table. And the rampage continues because Wolverine still has power left over. He's going to move into contact with Toad and also throw a Snicked into him for another 2. We're back to the Brotherhood, and my opponent really wants to get Colossus off the table. He has had enough of this guy. He has just absorbed a truckload of damage. He's going to activate Pyro. Even though Colossus has resistance 1 to fire damage, Pyro only needs to do 1 point of damage, so he throws 2 Pyroblasts into the Big Russian. One of them is overloaded, but neither of them are able to beat that energy defense of 17. So Colossus is still standing, and the Brotherhood are just struggling with the dice this game. So the X-Men are doing pretty well here. We're just concentrating on fire on 1 character at a time, and so I'm going to keep going with that because it seems to be working. we're going to activate Jean Grey, who's going to go after Toad with an overloaded Psychic Illusions, which he manages to hit and causes 3 points of damage. That puts Toad in the red, so he has to make a stamina test to stay conscious, and he fails and passes out. Now again, we're running this game under superhero rules, so we try to avoid attacking characters who are knocked out. So for the remainder of her turn, Jean Grey is just going to move up towards the combat, try and get in range of some of those shorter range abilities of hers. What I really want to do with her is start TKing scenery pieces around, but she only has a strength of 3 with her telekinesis, and there's just not a whole lot of size 3 scenery pieces in the middle of the table. Anyway, my opponent is going to activate Toad next, who is currently napping on the ground. So he makes another stamina check and manages to wake up. So he hops up and goes and throws an overloaded Toad Spit into Jean Grey, which hits with a crit for 3 points of damage. For the remainder of his power, he's just going to hop away because he is badly hurt and facing a whole bunch of angry X-Men. Next, we're going to activate Rogue. Rogue has some interesting characteristics. She has a lot of power, but her attack and defenses are bad, and her actual strikes or actual attacks are pretty inefficient. What she does have, though, is a strength of 4, and as I said, there are lots of size 4 scenery pieces around, so she's going to fly over to that taco truck, and she's going to huck it at the Juggernaut. Juggernaut only has an agility of 6, so it's very unlikely he's going to be able to dodge this, and sure enough, he doesn't. It only does 2 points of damage, which again, for some reason I have 1 marked down. I don't know, we might be making a couple mistakes in here. At least it's evening out. Again, he only takes that amount of damage because he has resistance to physical, so I'm not sure I'm actually going to be able to cause enough damage to knock this guy out or anything. But what I can do is knock him down. So if nothing else, at least he has to spend 1 of his power standing back up again instead of attacking my guys. Finally, Deadpool continues his jog up the table and throws another overloaded Bang Bang into Magneto, which hits for 1 point of damage. It's hard to do a lot of damage to the Master of Magnetism with metal bullets. Anyway, we're at the end of the round. Colossus and Toad both have to make stamina tests because they are in the red, and they both fail. So they both hit the pavement. Toad does have regenerate. He generates 1 point of damage, as does Wolverine. And we're on to a new round, and my opponent manages to draw his counter. So I didn't realize this as I was doing it, but I managed to line up 3 of my characters in just a beautiful pattern for Pyro's spray template. So Pyro is going to activate first, gets that extra power because of Magneto's leadership, and he's going to move over and use Cone of Flame and hit Wolverine, Deadpool, and Jean Grey. They all get to take agility tests to see if they can take half damage, but Wolverine is the only one who passes, even though Deadpool is an acrobat with agility 9. Too busy mouthing off and not paying attention, I guess. Also not paying attention is Jean Grey. She has a ton of special abilities that allow her to resist damage. And again, it's just hard for me to keep track of these. I'm just not familiar with her because she just does all this different stuff. So anyway, Jean Grey is now in the pale zone because of that damage. But as far as the other 2 go, I think it just makes them mad. So it's my turn, and I'm going to activate Colossus because he is not going to last long sleeping on the ground in front of all those guys. So again, I'm feeling pretty well about the victory points that I've been earning in the position that I'm in. I just want to reduce what my opponent can do. So Peter is going to stand up, and he's going to overload a throw into Juggernaut. Again, I just want this guy away from my people, and hopefully that'll diminish the amount of damage he can do. Fortunately, Colossus is able to hit, and so I chuck him just away. I can only throw him 6 inches because Juggernaut has toughness 2, which reduces any throws or pushes by 2 inches. That is enough to send him through both Magneto and Emma Frost, and so I'm going to assign 1 point of Juggernaut's size 3 damage onto Emma Frost. She manages to dodge, doesn't take any. But I also put 2 onto Magneto, who fails his agility test and so takes 2 points of damage and is knocked down. Thanks to Juggernaut's resistance, he only takes 1 point of damage from the throw. But again, knocked down and 6 inches away is fine with me. But man, did that make Magneto mad. Magneto stands up again, and he is just sick of Colossus, this impudent guy who just won't die and continues to punch through damage on the middle of his whole team. Magneto stands up and uses Storm of Steel. This is like Blunt Instrument. It allows him to throw a metallic character, but this one is his red ability, and it costs 6 power to do. It hits Colossus with a strength of 6 and just sends him flying like a rocket across the table, doing 5 points of damage. He throws him through Rogue on his way. Rogue manages to pass her agility test, which is nice, but it really is complete overkill. Colossus is incapacitated, but he has had a phenomenal game. And what a way to go out, really. But with Magneto distracted, that is just the opportunity that Deadpool needs. He moves over to him and overloads a stab into him, which crits, doing 3 points of damage. All that despite Magneto having upped his physical defense. It didn't help, and now Magneto is in the pale as well. Emma Frost is next. She is going to put Drain Psyche on Wolverine for -1 willpower, -1 mental defense. Then she stabs Logan's poor scrambled brain with a Psy Bolt and an Astral Bolt, which are going to do a total of 4 points of damage. That is going to put Wolverine in the pale as well, so he's going to need stamina tests at the end of the round to stay conscious. Fortunately, he has soldiers, so he can reroll any failed ones. Also, now that he's in the pale, he doesn't have the -1 attack that he had while he was healthy. And he immediately sets putting that upped attack to good use. I'm going to activate Wolverine next, and he's going to move into Magneto and snicked him for 2 points of damage. That's going to put Magneto in the red, and he's going to fail his stamina test and immediately get knocked out. Wolverine may be a berserker, but he's still a hero, so we're not going to attack Magneto on the ground. We are instead going to use Agile to make a second move action into Pyro, and we're going to hit him with another snicked, and we're going to crit this one for 3 points of damage. So another nice berserker barrage from Wolverine. So now it's Juggernaut's turn again, and he is still having trouble getting far enough to use the abilities that he wants. In the end, he decides to recreate a scene from Deadpool 2. He charges up and then does a throw on Deadpool. Doesn't rip him in half this time. We just managed to hit and then chuck him a good 10 inches away. That's also going to take him through Jean Grey. Jean Grey needs to make an agility test, which again she fails. Jean Grey is going to take 2 points of damage, Deadpool is going to take 4, they're both knocked down, and Deadpool is now in the pale as well. However, now that move lines up both Pyro and Juggernaut for a massive blast from Cyclops. Normally I would only overload attacks to get the +1 dice on the attack roll, but I just felt like I just wanted to do this in this case, so I spent the overload to get Pierce 4 so I can hit both of those guys. Juggernaut resists 2 physical damage and he's immune to psychic damage, but he doesn't have any resistance to energy damage, so he's a great target for Cyclops. Sadly, I managed to beat the energy defense of Pyro, but not Juggernaut. Still, that does 5 points of damage to Pyro, which is going to put him in the pale as well. He is also going to fail his stamina test and go take a little nap. A lot of my guys are getting knocked into the pale zone and taking damage, but a bunch of their opponents are currently sleeping, so we're still doing real well. My opponent is next going to activate Toad. Unfortunately, Toad does not pass his stamina test and cannot take an activation this round. So next we're going to activate Jean Grey, and we're going to have a little bit of a psychic battle between Jean and Emma. Primarily because most of Jean's abilities won't work on Juggernaut. Anyway, she flies up and overloads Psychic Illusions twice. That will end up hitting, as rolling 4 dice to attack it tends to, and it will cause 3 points of damage because of Power Master. So the Brotherhood is out of activations, so it's just the X-Men show for now. We're going to activate Rogue, and she is living her best life, staying out of the scrum and just tossing stuff at Juggernaut. This time it's going to be a shipping container. Again, Juggernaut fails his dodge, takes 2 points of damage, and gets knocked down. And Nightcrawler is doing his part by keeping the Relic away from the bad guys. He just runs away, ends up in my deployment zone. You're doing great, Kurt. It's the end of the round and I have a whole pile of stamina tests to make. Jean, Wolverine, and Deadpool all managed to pass their stamina checks and stay awake for this next round. Toad, Wolverine, and Deadpool also regenerate 1. We draw another counter for the bag and we get the bad guys. So first up is Emma Frost. Emma Frost manages to lob an overloaded Psybolt with a crit into Wolverine for 3 points of damage. Wolverine is now in the red. He passes his stamina test, which is nice. But then a little bit worried about all the heavy hitters converging on her position, Emma Frost is going to change into her diamond form. That's going to give her +3 to all of her defenses and +2 strength. She's no dummy. At this point, she's just looking at staying alive. But this is the situation that I really wanted to get to. Wolverine is in the red, he's good and mad, +1 attack, +1 power, and Juggernaut is lying on the ground right in front of him. we're going to move up and drop our red ability, the best there is, into him, which manages to hit for a nice 5 points of damage. That means I hit with a crit, and because Wolverine's claws are irresistible, Juggernaut doesn't get to use that physical resistance too. That means I somehow managed to chew through enough of Juggernaut's health to actually put him in the pail. As the only other conscious team member on the Brotherhood side, Juggernaut is up next. He stands up, and this has really been working for him. He throws Wolverine at Jean Grey. The throw hits. Because Juggernaut is in the pail, he's down to strength 4, but that's still going to cause 3 points of damage to Wolverine, which is enough to take him off the table. He's going to have to spend some time recovering at the X-Mansion. Fortunately, at this point, Jean Grey's been hit by enough flying teammates that she knows what to watch out for and passes her agility test and takes no damage. Now we're back to the X-Team, and I get to activate Cyclops again, who has just quietly been having a great game. He's going to move up a bit to get Juggernaut in range of his focus beams, and he's going to throw 2 of them. Both of them are overloaded. One of them is going to hit with a crit, and the other one is just going to hit for a normal amount of damage. That's going to do 5 damage, no resistance to drop that down, and Juggernaut goes into the red. Fortunately, Juggernaut has a mighty stamina of 10, so doesn't have any problem passing that test to stay standing. And we are on to Magneto, who is currently taking a quick power nap in the center of the table, and he fails the stamina test to wake up, so no activation for him this round. So it's my turn to activate, and we're going to go with Jean Grey. When Juggernaut goes into the red, he actually loses his invulnerability to psychic damage. I guess Cyclops just blasted that big dumb helmet of his straight off his head. That now gives Jean Grey all the opportunity that she was waiting for. She goes with Psionic Blast into Juggernaut. Psionic Blast is explosive too, so it's going to affect everyone within 2 inches. She's going to overload it twice and also get a crit, which is a lot easier to do when you're rolling 4 dice. It's going to cause 4 damage to Juggernaut and 3 damage to Pyro, Toad, and Magneto. None of them can pass any kind of agility test to take half damage because they're all on the ground. Anyway, Jean Grey is just clearing the room. Juggernaut's out, Toad's out, Pyro's out, Magneto is on 1 health. Are we sure she's not the Phoenix at this point? She might be the Phoenix. Oh, and who's that over there? Is that still Emma Frost? I'm just going to use telekinesis to pick up a crate and bonk her on the head. Emma Frost fails her dodge, takes 2 points of damage and is knocked down, and that's it. The game is called, and it is a mighty X-Men win. To be fair, the game was really technically over long ago. Once Colossus was able to cover Nightcrawler's escape, my opponent had very little chance of running down those relics that were held by Nightcrawler and Rogue. So even if he wiped the floor with my X-Men, I was still going to win on victory points. But rather satisfactorily, the X-Men did real well. I think the Brotherhood was plagued by quite a bit of bad luck during the game, and my dice rolling was real consistent. But beyond that, the X-Men have some real specialized characters, and they all kind of ended up exactly where they needed to be. Colossus in the middle, just absorbing tons of damage. I loved Cyclops' position, being able to fire off those focused beams through the whole game. Rogue being able to fly around on the outskirts, holding the objective and just throwing heavy objects at Juggernaut. Wolverine and Deadpool just running up and picking off people that came near him. And even Jean Grey, whose powers I find difficult to coordinate, just eventually got into the perfect position to clean up the game for me. As for the Brotherhood, a lot of them did fairly well. Even Pyro, who's kind of hot garbage, managed to get that really nice cone of flame off in the middle of the game. Magneto put consistent damage onto Colossus, which is not easy to do. And Juggernaut's just kind of cool. He can really take a punch and deliver a punch. He's real expensive though, and he's not terribly fast, and his attacks are fairly short-ranged. Still, I'm glad I painted him up, and I think he's going to get plenty of use. Even Emma did fairly good damage against Wolverine towards the middle there. And Toad would have been fantastic at getting those objectives. He was just a little bit late to the party, so I don't think it's really a problem with the characters. A lot of them actually performed fairly well. I think it's just one of those things in those skirmish games that if one player is able to concentrate fire on one character at a time, and the other player is not, the one who can concentrate fire is usually going to pull ahead pretty quick. And that was kind of the case with Sabretooth, who just took like all the fire from my team for the first round and couldn't absorb that. So yeah, that's it. Super fun. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I still plan on painting and playing this game, So I will see you on the next one.